Tonight, our team inside Gaza City, what our reporter witnessed at the hospitals. And tonight, what two U.S. officials are now saying about Hamas running operations out of those hospitals. Also tonight, a Secret Service agent protecting President Biden's oldest granddaughter opening fire on multiple suspects. And the ABC News exclusive tonight, for the first time, the videotaped interviews with two attorneys who worked with former President Trump, charged in Georgia's election interference case, what they have told prosecutors. First tonight, explosions and gunfire deep inside Gaza. Our team embedded with the Israeli military outside a children's hospital. The Israelis tonight claiming it was used as a Hamas command center. And what they show our team, you'll see it, is it evidence of Hamas operations? And were some of the hostages kept there at one point? And outside the largest hospital in Gaza City, Al-Shifa Hospital, the facility without electricity now, 39 premature babies inside had to be removed from incubators. And tonight, what U.S. authorities are now saying about that very hospital. Matt Gutman in Israel. We have new reporting here tonight on the deaths of 5 elite American soldiers killed aboard a special operations helicopter in the Mediterranean. All 5 now identified tonight. Martha Raddatz with late reporting. Here in the U.S., that Secret Service agent protecting President Biden's oldest granddaughter opening fire on 3 suspects breaking into a vehicle outside her home. The suspects getting away, Pierre Thomas reporting tonight. The ABC News exclusive, for the first time, our investigative team obtaining some of the videotaped interviews with 2 former Trump attorneys charged in Georgia's election interference case. What they told prosecutors in exchange for their plea deals. Attorney Jenna Ellis saying she was told Donald Trump, the boss as they called him, would not leave the White House under any circumstances. Trump's lawyers now responding tonight. Aaron Katersky standing by. The massive fire shutting down one of the busiest and most congested highways in America, part of the I-10 freeway in downtown Los Angeles. And of course, the question tonight, when will it reopen? In New York City, the scare high above the ground here in Manhattan, 2 workers dangling from scaffolding on the side of a building. Also a state of emergency tonight amid fears of a devastating volcanic eruption, the ground already rumbling tonight. And former Speaker Pelosi's husband taking the stand just moments ago, what he testified.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to start another week with all of you at home. And we begin tonight with our team inside Gaza, a rare look at Israel's ground war against Hamas. Israeli forces surrounding Gaza City and moving in. They're now at some of the hospitals that are now at the center of this fight. Israel says the hospitals are being used to shield Hamas fighters. Doctors at Al-Shifa Hospital, one of the main hospitals there, deny Hamas was operating there. At that hospital, premature babies have now been taken off incubators amid this fighting. Tonight, President Biden saying hospitals must be protected. At the same time, 2 U.S. administration officials now say the U.S. has seen intelligence supporting Israel's claim. And you're about to see what the Israeli military showed our team. Tonight, the Israeli military surrounding Al-Shifa Hospital, the biggest in Gaza, claiming Hamas has a command center underground. Doctors trying to save lives amid this fight. Those premature babies among the most at risk. Taken off incubators, doctors say there is no electricity now. Our Matt Gutman in Gaza with Israeli troops outside a children's hospital there, bullets overhead. And what the Israeli military shows our team, is it evidence of Hamas operations inside these hospitals and beneath them? ABC's Matt Gutman leading us off tonight, taking us inside Gaza.
We mounted up on those jeeps and drove into Gaza. The road ground into dust, and everywhere in the city of 1 million people, those apocalyptic scenes, blown out buildings everywhere. In northern Gaza, we were embedded with the Israeli military to see the children's hospital they say was used as a Hamas command center. The road leading past what had been a luxury hotel, now charred black, much of it collapsed. In the billowing dust, scores of soldiers on foot. Then we load into these armored fighting vehicles.
We're now inside this armored fighting vehicle, and we are going towards the Rantisi Specialized Children's Hospital that has been evacuated.
We unload outside the hospital into active fighting.
Admiral!
We meet Israel's chief military spokesman, Daniel Hagari, a former naval commando.
You can hear the tank firing down the street.
Hagari says this was the house of a Hamas commander. It was next to a school and the Rantisi hospital. Just up the street, those tanks firing.
I don't know if you can hear all that small arms fire in the background. We gotta get down now. We hear the whistles of the small arms fire around us. When you hear the whistle, in addition to the crack, it means it's very close. We're using the tank as cover right now.
And tonight, with the world now aware of the horrors at Al-Shifa Hospital, just a few hundred yards away, the Israeli military tonight saying Hamas is operating a command center beneath that hospital, too. Two Biden administration officials say the U.S. has intelligence supporting Israel's claim. Doctors deny that and say the hospital is no longer functioning. And without fuel for the generators, they had to remove 39 premature babies from their incubators, lining those tiny bundles on a gurney, desperately trying to keep them warm and alive. 3 of the babies have died.
Go ahead.
And back here at Rantisi Hospital, Hagari leading us inside through a hole made by an artillery shell.
This was the armory, okay?
Hagari says this children's safe room was used as a Hamas command center.
Those AK-47s look pretty old and rusty. I mean, was this a crack force that was here?
No. Some of the gear was operationally gear, but also some of the terrorists fled away, did not stay here. It shows us the war machine Hamas is conducting from hospitals. A hospital for children.
Further into the basement, a separate section.
We see here a chair.
Hagari revealing that chair, and we press the Israeli military. Beyond what they're seeing here, are they certain hostages were held here?
Hagari, what makes you think that this was a spot where somebody was held hostage?
We're going to bring here a forensic team. The only reason I brought you here, and I'm taking a huge risk, because you see the fighting outside. Tying hostages on a chair in his facility in a basement, fighting us for a hospital, using the children here in this hospital, a hospital for children, as a human shield. This is Hamas.
So let's bring in Matt Gutman with us live tonight, just back from his reporting inside Gaza. And Matt, as you know, the Biden administration, aware the world is watching these hospitals in the last 24 to 48 hours, the horrific civilian death toll. Of course, this new intelligence, 2 administration officials now saying the U.S. has intelligence supporting Israel's claim that Hamas has a command center under Al-Shifa, the hospital where we know the babies are among the patients in the most dire need tonight.
It's a tough balancing act for the administration, David. On the one hand, President Biden tonight saying he has not been reluctant in expressing his concern about what's going on, saying more needs to be done not only to protect the hospitals, but the patients inside. On the other hand, White House officials saying they are now very confident about that intelligence you just mentioned, that Hamas is using those hospitals as command posts. Hamas denies that. David.
Matt Gutman and his reporting from inside Gaza. Matt, thank you. We have new reporting on the deaths of 5 elite American soldiers killed aboard a special operations helicopter in the Mediterranean. All 5 now identified tonight, and we're learning more about the mission they were assigned to, what they were readying for amid this war in the Middle East. Here's our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz, tonight.
Tonight, the names, the images of the 5 elite soldiers killed during that nighttime mid-air refueling exercise now released by the Pentagon. The 5 soldiers were aboard a special operations aviation helicopter in the Mediterranean Sea, the kind of helicopter which often flies the Army's Delta Force and the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to secret missions. Mid-air refueling is difficult in the best of circumstances. This was made far more challenging wearing night vision goggles. But it's not clear yet what went wrong. The soldiers based at Fort Campbell came from across America. Chief Warrant Officer Stephen Dwyer of Tennessee, Chief Warrant Officer Shane Barnes from Sacramento, Staff Sergeant Tanner Groen from New Hampshire, Sergeant Andrew Suthard, Arizona, and Sergeant Cade Wolf from Minnesota. The elite forces were deployed to the eastern Mediterranean in case they were needed to evacuate Americans from Israel or elsewhere in the volatile region.
Martha Raddatz reporting tonight on these elite U.S. soldiers lost. And Martha, I know we're also learning more at this hour about U.S. airstrikes in the last 24 hours in Syria, those Iranian-backed militias that have been attacking U.S. forces.
Exactly, David. Those airstrikes in Syria are believed to have killed roughly half a dozen Iran-linked militants, according to a defense official. But the rocket and drone attacks against American forces in the region have not let up, despite the retaliatory U.S. strikes. David?
Martha Raddatz with late reporting from Washington. Martha, thank you. Tonight, we have learned a Secret Service agent protecting President Biden's oldest granddaughter opened fire on 3 suspects breaking into a Secret Service vehicle outside Naomi Biden's home. The suspects getting away, and here's our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas now.
Tonight in the nation's capital, a search for suspects after a Secret Service agent protecting the president's eldest granddaughter opened fire. The Secret Service responding to 3 men trying to break into one of their Secret Service vehicles outside of Naomi Biden's home in Georgetown. The thieves got away in a red vehicle, no one apparently injured. The brazen attempt happening against the backdrop of a city seeing a surge in violent crime, like this armed robbery caught on camera less than a month ago. And a spike in car theft, police say, is fueled in part by juveniles.
We have too many young people involved in violent activity in our city.
The mayor focusing on juveniles as car theft is up a stunning 98% in the nation's capital, with 141 juveniles arrested for carjackings, a third of all carjacking arrests. The incident at the home of Naomi Biden, who got married at the White House last year, is another example that in D.C. right now, no one is immune from crime. David, the White House had no comment on this incident, and so far no indication that the would-be thieves knew whose car or home they were targeting. David?
Pierre Thomas tonight. Pierre, thank you. We turn now to the ABC News exclusive. For the first time, our investigative team obtaining some of the videotaped interviews with 2 former Trump attorneys charged in Georgia's election interference case. What they told prosecutors in exchange for their plea deals. Attorney Jenna Ellis saying that she was told Donald Trump, the boss as they called him, would not leave the White House under any circumstances. Trump's lawyers responding tonight, and here's ABC senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky.
Tonight, ABC News has obtained excerpts of confidential videotaped interviews of 2 alleged co-conspirators charged along with former President Trump in Georgia. The 2 attorneys in these videos have now turned and are cooperating with authorities. Sidney Powell, who once claimed a dead Hugo Chavez was one of the reasons behind Trump's loss, and Jenna Ellis cut plea deals on reduced charges in exchange for their cooperation, giving interviews to prosecutors.
We're here with a proffer with Ms. Jenna Ellis.
Ellis, who falsely claimed ballots were manipulated, recounting a time at the 2020 White House Christmas party when she said Trump aide Dan Scavino told her Trump planned to simply refuse to leave the White House.
He said to me in a kind of excited tone, well, we don't care and we're not going to leave.
Ellis said she asked him, what do you mean?
He said the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. We are just going to stay in power. And I said to him, well, it doesn't quite work that way, you realize. And he said, we don't care.
Scavino did not respond to requests for comment, and an attorney for Trump called the purported conversation meaningless, since he did ultimately leave the White House. Sidney Powell also told prosecutors Trump was determined to stay in power, despite his aides repeatedly telling him he lost.
What was President Trump's reaction when, I guess, this cadre of advisors would say you lost?
It was like, well, they would say that and then they'd walk out. And he'd go, see, this is what I deal with all the time.
Trump has pleaded not guilty and denied wrongdoing. After Powell's guilty plea, they both denied she was his lawyer. But Powell told prosecutors Trump knew she was one of the few willing to support him.
I was the most experienced federal practitioner in the group. Did I know anything about election law? No.
Powell pushed that outrageous conspiracy theory that voting machines were controlled by Venezuela, even pointing a finger at former dictator Hugo Chavez, who died nearly a decade earlier.
This was exported from Venezuela and by Maduro and by Mr. Chavez. This is the consummate foreign interference in our election.
She told prosecutors Trump weighed a plan to seize voting machines in multiple states, despite no evidence of ballot fraud.
That would have allowed the machines to be secured in 4 or 5 states or cities and see about doing a bipartisan or military or whatever everybody agreed on review of the machines.
Sources told ABC News a number of former President Trump's co-defendants in the case have previously been offered plea deals. Any cooperator, David,
could be called to testify once this racketeering case goes to trial. David?
All right, Aaron Katersky, Olivia Rubin, and our entire investigative team, my thanks to you all. We continue now, and former President Trump's sister, retired federal judge Maryanne Trump Barry, passed away overnight at her home here in Manhattan. Sources say EMTs arrived at her Fifth Avenue apartment responding to a call of a person in cardiac arrest. Judge Barry was supportive of her brother at times, but cracks appeared in their relationship when their niece, Mary Trump, released audio of the judge, Maryanne Trump, saying her brother has, quote, no principles, quote, you can't trust him. She retired in 2019 amid an investigation into the Trump family's tax practices. Judge Barry was 86. We turn now to Los Angeles tonight, where a massive fire shut down part of one of the busiest and, of course, most congested highways in America. Part of I-10 was shut down. It remains closed tonight. Mola Lenghi in Los Angeles.
Tonight, structural engineers and contractors working around the clock to reopen one of the busiest freeways in the country.
The urgency is now. We will get this taken care of.
The rush hour commute shaking up downtown Los Angeles as the 10 freeway, known to nearly 300,000 drivers, remains shut down, pushing commuters and commerce to other congested highways.
It's uncertain how long this stretch of the I-10 will be shut down. Take a look at the freeway. It's usually packed with cars, but right now, as you can see, this stretch is completely empty. What is certain is the major disruption this will cause hundreds of thousands of drivers.
I'm a little worried that over the next few days it's going to get a little worse.
New images tonight showing the burned debris after that massive inferno erupted just after midnight Saturday. More than 160 firefighters battling the flames for hours. What's left, melted guardrails, concrete columns peeling, revealing the rebar wires, and the protective layers under the bridge now exposed. Crews zeroing in on this section, constructing support walls as they begin to take samples from and assess more than 100 damaged columns.
Well, just moments ago, Governor Newsom announcing the cause of this fire appears to have been arson. It was intentionally set. The who and how remain under investigation, David.
The charred overpass right there behind you tonight, Mola. Thank you. When we come back here in New York City, the scare, 2 workers dangling from scaffolding. And former Speaker Pelosi's husband taking the stand just moments ago, what he revealed. Tonight, a daring rescue high above the ground here in New York City. 2 workers rescued from scaffolding that was dangling some 23 stories up on Manhattan's Upper East Side. They were working on the building's facade when a motor malfunctioned. The emergency brakes activating, breaking their fall. Rescuers pulling them in through a window. They were not badly hurt. Tonight, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, coming face to face with his alleged attacker in court in San Francisco. Paul Pelosi testifying against David Muir today, describing when his door opened, he saw a very large man come in with a hammer in one hand, ties in the other, asking, "Where's Nancy?" Police body cam showing the struggle, officers arriving just before Paul Pelosi was struck in the head. Pelosi says he's mostly recovered now. When we come back, a state of emergency at this hour amid fears of a devastating volcanic eruption, the ground rumbling already. In a moment. To the index, in a state of emergency in Iceland tonight amid fears of a devastating volcanic eruption there, a relentless string of earthquakes, 1,200 in the past 24 hours alone. Authorities say magma spreading rapidly underground, that it could erupt at any moment. A fishing village 30 miles from the capital, now a ghost town tonight. Residents have evacuated. When we come back here, America Strong, the surprise at story time, the second graders who weren't expecting the story to end like this. None of us were.
ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, sponsored by Pacific Life, creating financial security for more than 150 years.
Finally tonight here, America Strong, the guest for story time and the surprise ending. Tonight in Carmel, Indiana, just outside Indianapolis at West Clay Elementary School, Miss Liebold and her second graders, and the surprise no one saw coming.
In between the 2 lanes.
Every week, Miss Liebold invites someone to come to class and to read to her students. And this time it was her boyfriend of 4 years, Austin Dunwoody, reading to her class. But just listen when Austin suddenly changes the story.
Now, what Austin is about to say is a little bit off the script. After he says it, the crowd, that's you guys, will certainly flip.
He is talking about Rachel, Miss Liebold.
As we approach this new stage of life, there is no question that I want you as my wife. A beautiful, radiant cut diamond ring. And so Rachel, marry me?
Proposing to her in front of her second graders. Tonight, the newly engaged couple saying they are overjoyed. Rachel saying, I love my second graders, and I'm so glad I got to share the moment with them. Tonight, the surprise those second graders and their teacher will never forget. We love their reaction. Congratulations, Miss Leibold, and we're glad she said yes. I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.